our mission is to redefine how society works in the age of AI. We believe government institutions need to change, economic systems need to change to support the changes AI will bring about. Long-winded way of saying everyone. We want everyone involved. It doesn't matter if you're a 80-year-old grandma or a 15-year-old high school student, because this technology is going to affect the entire world.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Orita Podcast. I'm Aaron Schwartz, one of the co-founders of Orita, calling you from a phone booth, which is pretty exciting. I did not transport my kids' artwork behind me on this one. There's some nice texture if needed. I'm very excited to have Stephen Campbell, one of the founders of Revamp, on the podcast today. I want to talk a little bit about Revamp, the collective he built, and obviously his background. So Stephen, let me get out of the way. Would love for you to introduce yourself and the company.
Yeah, definitely. So, hey, everyone, I'm Stephen Campbell. I'm one of the co-founders at Revamp. Revamp, what do? We make agents for lifecycle marketing. So actually help brands and agencies communicate at a one-to-one level with their customers. Happy to go into a little bit of my background, Aaron. I know you kind of teed me up on the collective, but yeah, I can kind of dive into whatever.
Yeah, tell me more about your background, how you got here, and then definitely want to hear a little bit more about the collective.
Definitely. So I've been into AI for like forever. My first kind of introduction to AI came when I was about 14. So I had the fortune of going to Thomas Jefferson High School for science and technology. When I went, it was the #1 high school in the United States. And the classes were crazy, Aaron. We had machine learning classes, we had robotics classes. Me and my best friend Chappie were making self-driving go-karts for fun. It was nuts. And so that was my first introduction to AI. Now, this is before ChatGPT and everything, but it just blew my mind. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do with it.
All right. So you finished high school at some point, and then what? Walk me through your career a little bit.
Yeah. So science high school was very nerdy. Everyone was very introverted. We were prioritizing learning maybe over being social and making friends. And I wanted a switch. So when I was deciding where to go for college, I went to USC, the one in Los Angeles, not the one in South Carolina. And it was just a completely different world because everyone there was so well-rounded. People were really smart, but they were also social. A lot of people had brands themselves. And that's where I started my first business. We were doing tech consulting for startups. And you start with like the worst contracts you can get. So our first contract was like a $15K contract to build like a music app. And then we started doing healthcare contracts. And one of my favorite ones was we started building out tech stacks for YC startups. And that was my first kind of introduction to Y Combinator, where a non-technical YC team needed help building out their inventory system, their front end, their back end, and their mobile app. And so we just became their technical arm. And I was like, dude, YC is the coolest thing on the planet. And so that kind of keyed me into like where my future was going to be. I was like, okay, there's something happening over here. I could probably do this myself.
All right, but then you left being an entrepreneur for a little bit. You got a real job, as I think the kids call it these days. So yeah, keep going, please.
Yeah, it was really brutal. So the company was doing better than ever. And we started getting offers to do subcontracts on government contracts. And government contracts are great because you get paid a lot and you don't have to do a good job. It's like the best, it's the best of all worlds. So I was really excited about this. It was going to be very lucrative. And my two co-founders of the consulting business decided they wanted to have kind of regular jobs be the beginning of their career. And I didn't have, I think, conviction in myself, honestly, at the time to go at it alone, even though in retrospect I could have. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm going to get a regular job now. Tying back in my interests in AI, I knew I needed to get up to Silicon Valley. There's a reason you and I are here. And so my first job was Airtable. I was a software engineer and I was on their early AI team. So very different than the AI we see today, but it was kind of my introduction professionally to the world of AI.
All right. So now get me up to speed on the founding of Revamp. Like, when did you guys start the business? What was the original vision, right? I know it's now agents, but when did it start? And what was the original problem you were solving?
Definitely. So we started in February of 2023. So we've been actually at this like quite some time. The idea came to us because I founded the AI Collective. It was kind of born from that. So maybe if it would be useful, I could kind of talk about the AI
Yeah,
Collective.
let's start there. I'm actually super curious about it. I'm going to one of your dinners tonight, which is, I'm old and have kids and don't get out much. So like, this is the first time I actually get to see it in person. But yeah, what is the AI Collective?
Definitely. We're getting Indian food tonight. So you got to mentally prepare. It's really good. It's my favorite restaurant in SF. Yeah. AI Collective. So when I moved out to Silicon Valley, I didn't know really anyone. I had a couple of friends. I think like a friend's cousin's roommate was like a YC founder. Maybe someone's like ex-wife's boyfriend was the VC. That was my network. And I wanted to meet more people. So me and my best friend Chappie started meetups in my apartment here on 17th Street in the Mission. Actually, it was actually in the Castro. And we started just with 10 friends coming over to talk about AI. And about, 2 weeks later, we threw like a public posting up and opened it up to anyone. And I think we had like 75 signups for my tiny studio apartment. And so we were like, crap. We started getting to be selective. Like, hey, we're not going to take VC associates anymore. We're taking, managing partners only. And a month or two after that, we started throwing 300-person summits in downtown SF, sponsored by AWS. And then it just grew. Then we had a location in New York. Then we had a location trying to think of the sequence. I think it was London. The chapters, basically franchises of these meetups, just started expanding globally. So where we're at today, we have about 250,000 members around the world. We're in all continents except Antarctica. That's coming soon. And I think we have about 1,000 events scheduled for the next year around the world, which is just mind blowing. And what's been really rewarding to me is not only personally do I get to say, wow, I feel like I know everyone in Silicon Valley, but we're giving that opportunity to other people coming to the Valley as a form of just kind of like economic empowerment to build out their networks here.
So who are the people who should be signing up for AI Collective events? Is it like hey, I want to be a founder? Or is it, look, I'm mid-career and I really want to learn more about AI? Like what's the kind of altitude of the meetings?
Definitely. Our mission is to redefine how society works in the age of AI. We believe government institutions need to change, economic systems need to change to support the changes AI will bring about. Long-winded way of saying everyone. We want everyone involved. It doesn't matter if you're a 80-year-old grandma or a 15-year-old high school student. There's a place for you at the collective because this technology that's really just getting made in San Francisco is going to affect the entire world.
All right. So Revamp kind of spun out of this, is what I'm gathering from what you said earlier. I don't know that story. Like, what's the like origin story of the business?
Definitely. We started February 23. It's kind of cool. My position in the collective, I get to see a whole swath of startups coming out. We've been at this so long. I've kind of been through multiple cycles of seeing AI startups get founded, fail, someone starts something else that fails or it succeeds. And so I have this cool view of the market. It became clear over time that really data was going to be the new moat, and that kind of SaaS had limited economic viability in the future because you could just vibe code everything, right? But I would guess you all had a similar intuition at Orita where it's really data is going to be the moat and data is going to power things. And my co-founder, Amin, previously founded a brand. It's called Rasta. They're a South Asian streetwear brand. Shopify Klaviyo, they do a couple $1 million a year in revenue. And so he and I started iterating on interesting approaches to data for Rasta. And we started with lifecycle marketing because that's where the data is the richest. You have cause and effect, right? You send an email, the person purchases or clicks, or they don't. And we basically operated as an agency for about 2 years. We created co-pilots for different parts of lifecycle marketing. So first data analytics, then segmentation, then copywriting. And with each of these things or each of these co-pilots we made, we had a better understanding of lifecycle marketing and a better understanding of the market. And that really all culminated in May of 25 when we launched our agents. Agents was like the big technology for us where it's like, okay, we've crossed a capability threshold and this whole new world is available to us now.
All right, what do agents mean? I feel like there are a lot of companies that say they do agents, but it's literally just like a decision tree and it's a quote unquote agent, right? What does agents mean for you and how should brands, again, abstracting away from revamp, what is the job of an agent as you see it?
Definitely. For us, it's autonomous and self improving according to the brand or the agency strategy. That's our that's our definition of an agent. And it's how we drive our results for our brands.
What are some of the problems that your agents are tackling?
One of my favorite ones is one of our customers, Best Stop. They're a automotive conglomerate. So there's Best Stop. They're the OEM supplier of tops for Jeeps, and they also own like 8 other off-roading brands. What makes our agent special for them is we'll see, okay, someone bought a convertible hardtop for their 2007 JL Wrangler. Our agents will kick them into a one-to-one post-purchase flow where we'll actually look at the customer's behavior and start recommending complementary and compatible products from the other brands in the portfolio. So 7 JL Wrangler, we'll start showing them Baja design lights that fit it and PRP seats that would complement it. And this is turning into a really crazy just customer experience in general, but also a revenue generating automation for them. And that's all managed by our agents. They're going in and seeing like, okay, here's Aaron's behavior. Here are the products we should show him, et cetera.
Why, and just to ask like the generic VC question, why can't Claude just do this? Like, what is unique about what Revamp is doing, or why are you guys able to do something that like an LLM can't do, or a marketer can't self-serve and kind of set up a flow like this?
Fantastic question. There's so many different answers to that. I think what we've learned and the taste we have on solving this problem is key. The data infrastructure required for this is a core enabling technology. I mean, to really understand Klaviyo's API, you need like a data science degree. I'm sure you'd probably know better than anyone. And so it's really that data piece and how we go about actually training models for brands is why this is special. We have custom models for each brand on Revamp that are tuned to their customer base and understand their customer base at a really incredible level.
And I love it. Yeah, I think getting to the root of what you're saying is the thing. It's like, do you actually understand the customer or not? Like a generic model doesn't work. I mean, one thing we always talk about is like there is no average customer. Like you might have an average of 60 days of repurchase rate, but nobody's exactly right, like to the minute that. And so, how do you go build a system that's actually flexible? One of the things we think a lot about on like the lifecycle marketing side is like the world is changing very quickly. So even if you do come up with a model that works and you're putting your thumb on the scale, in a month, the brand might change their strategy. They might change what channels they're going through. So there's new data and like the actual customer journey changes. And so what I gather from what you guys are building is actually it is a very flexible system that is very open to like, as you kind of said, self-improving, right? It keeps learning.
Exactly. I'm kind of curious for you all, machine learning based companies uh, have such an advantage when it comes to data. Are there kind of interesting uses you found of data when it comes to lifecycle marketing or how you all interpret data? Because I feel like you guys are such a smart data product and that really drives, I mean, we've seen it drives really incredible results. It's kind of cool. You all are in the campaigns world and we're more in the flows world. And it's cool just to see, we see it for ourselves, the incredible results you all have driven for brands through campaigns.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like technically, I mean, this is very much more my co-founders space. Like Zach and DB are both ML engineers and DB's a PhD and I'm like a liberal arts guy. So I'm not going to go too far because I'll make a
Everyone's an
fool of
engineer
myself.
now, Aaron, with Claude Cowork. Everyone's an engineer.
Stephen, I'm the person who wants to print out all my emails and like mark them up and then have somebody else type it. So, no, I think on the data side, the switch, maybe not even the switch. The place where I see our companies being very complementary is we think our job is to create more at bats. So you want to go convert people, and I see your work. And again, like it's not only Arita and Revamp of the world, but like companies like us, if we are successful, we are helping you get more opportunities to go have Revamp convert the person? Like the question we're asking is like, is the person even addressable today? And if we do our job right, you get more at bats, and then Revamp converts them better, and then the brand makes like the ROI on any platform is better. They're just making more. I think is probably the biggest thing. I think in terms of like what we do on the data side, I go back to like, I ran a brand for a decade, and as the CEO of that brand, I wanted to send every email to everybody. And a lot of our customers have CEOs or CMOs who are like, more is better. And you have this 25-year-old, really hardworking, really sharp CRM manager who's fighting a battle against their manager to say, actually, less might be more. And so we see our job as like empowering that person to see in the data that, hey, like actually sending fewer emails might end up making us more money in the long run. And I think a big point of focus for us is actually just like empowering that team to like giving them the data to actually make the case that is like until now been extremely hard to make. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of how we're thinking about it.
No, definitely. With your like ML, are there things that you think are kind of important to optimize for, like unsubscribe rate or like customer lifetime value? I'm curious if you have insights on kind of like a North Star metric there.
I mean, look, we're serving brands today, right? And so, like at the end of the day, they care about making number go up and it's revenue. I think there's always a trade off for a brand of, do you want to make $1,000 more today or $2,000 more in a month? Because if you want to make more money today, and sometimes you just need money today, right? To hit some goal, or because you're investors, or because you're low on cash, or you just need to move a product out, or whatever it is, send a second email on the same day and you'll make more money. The problem is you'll create more unsubscribes, you'll hurt deliverability, right? Like you will hurt on the margin the ability to make that like more in a week, in a month, in a quarter, whatever it is. So our job is to, as we see it, is to drive profitable growth. I do think the unsubscribe thing is a good question because like one trope that we say over and over is like email feels cheap, but the opportunity cost is actually extremely high. If you have somebody in and you annoy them and they unsubscribe, and they unsubscribe during a period where like there is not an opportunity for them to click or to purchase, right? Like all the data in the world says she does not want to hear from you. You're annoying her. That is huge waste because in 6 months she might come back or there's a new product or whatever it is. And now you've got to go spend a lot of money on Meta or other channels. And I think the whole like retention side, like our focus is just kind of stop the leaky bucket for a lot of brands so that the next dollar they spend on acquisition actually goes that much further. I'm curious as you, because like you see this from the data collective side and obviously from the revamp side, how are you thinking about like AI assistants or AI like in commerce? Like how is this? I don't know if it's impacting your roadmap at all, or if it's like entering the discussion for your team, or if it's like actually those are solving a different problem. At the end of the day, we still need to like optimize a conversion, and we're the best in the world at like personalizing that conversion funnel. Like where does your mind go when you start thinking about everything that's changing in the ecosystem?
Definitely. We're going to see an explosion of non-technical people vibe coding solutions they would have otherwise went to SaaS for. For example, we have customers today at Revamp, no computer science degree or anything, and they've vibe coded their own dashboards that pull from the Klaviyo API and Surface Insights. So we think there's definitely a world where people are maybe even vibe coding what Revamp does. We can see about if you just plug kind of an AI agent into your flows and start optimizing them, about like an 18% increase in customer lifetime value, or if you want to use like revenue per recipient. And so we can offer that today to any brands, but maybe a year or two from now, they could build that on their own, just vibe coding. I think the key piece is once we start retraining, that's where we start seeing 30% plus increases in LTV. And that's something that, you know, for the foreseeable future, you would not be able to vibe code because you wouldn't have the data we have and the depth of integration we have, and then the data pipelines and the reinforcement learning and the distillation that we do. So but I think there's going to be explosion of these user of one SaaS applications that are just vibe coded and work really well.
Can you talk a little bit about your founder journey, actually, with the remaining time we have? Like going through YC must have been really special. You pivoted the company. You guys are growing, from what I can tell from the outside, like very quickly, right? And you're serving good brands in a good way, and you're driving a lot of value. How have you had to change as a founder, or what's like kind of different from what you expected? Yeah, just go down this path wherever you want.
Definitely. Yeah. It's a great question, Aaron. I think throughout my career, I feel like I've been at the tail end of all these great things. Like when I was a software engineer in 2021, I feel like that was like the last hurrah of being a software engineer in the Valley where it was like cool. Like it was cool. It was fairly easy to get a job. There were still like insane company perks. You didn't have to work that much. Like, and that world has kind of ended. And I feel like it was the same thing with YC. When I did YC, it was one of the last batches where it was like half a year. So we had the retreat, which is like they rent out like a luxury hotel in Sonoma, and it's like a YC convention, basically. Like the whole hotel is just YC founders. It's like AI Disneyland or whatever. And that was a lot of fun. They don't do that anymore because now there's like 4 or 5 batches a year. And I think there's like thousands of YC founders getting minted per year, and like most of them fail. So like the YC no longer feels as cool as it once did, or like it has the power that it once did. And I think the same thing is kind of happening with SaaS, where we're kind of on this final frontier of SaaS before, artificial super intelligence. And we're figuring out what are those final moats, and I think Orita and Revamp are well positioned in that regard, in that we have very strong data moats, but technology no longer really being a moat is kind of a crazy concept. And so I don't know, my whole career has kind of felt like, it's like a last stand of these what used to be institutions.
You think about pricing in a world like this. One of the things we run up against is like, I would love to do outcome-based pricing and do a rev share, but retention marketing budgets are software budgets. And so you're very much, it doesn't matter. You could have infinity ROI. It's like, well, guys, sorry, we don't have any SaaS budget. How do you think about that? And how do you think about kind of moving our customers towards a place, given what you're saying about like software is dead? Is that something that's on your mind yet? Or is that saying, hey, look, we'll fight that battle in 6 months or in a year?
I think pricing is in the age of AI is still kind of a question mark. We can't rely on the SaaS pricing that's worked out for the past 10 or 15 years. And pretty much any business, you could like copy and paste the existing pricing model just in industry onto it. I empathize with the brand owners for why they don't want outcomes based pricing. That's what I like in my brain. That's what makes sense to me is like, okay, let's all just like skate towards the same goal. But I also understand from their perspective that it kind of feels like another tax that they have to deal with. And then also it brings into question attribution, because it's like a science experiment. If the tools you're using to measure the experiment are not functioning properly, or they have some variance, then the experiment itself is false. And it's like, does everyone agree we're going to do this attribution window? Or are we going to use Klaviyo's attribution or Northbeam's or triple whales? So you kind of, to do the outcomes based pricing, it's like you need to put all of the stakeholders in a room like, and be like, what attribution window are we using? Okay, 5-day open, 3-day, whatever. Okay, great. Like, what are we using, KAV or are we using Northbeam? Okay. And like, maybe you could come to consensus there, but I'm guessing what the future is going to be is some sort of usage based pricing, where it's just kind of standardized usage based pricing. And then maybe you could give discounts for brands that have different margins. But I think that's going to be the future. I'm curious, what do you think?
I have no idea. I'm so lost, man. My wife just started at Sierra. And so I think a lot about outcome based pricing because that is all they talk about. And I think it's right. It's like usage is fine, except for if you use it more, but you get a lower result. Is that good? Right? Like, what is the incentive? It's like charging based on email instead of charging based on performance. Right now, we always joke that we just have the least bad pricing model. Like, we're open to changing it if a customer really wants to. But yeah, man, I don't know.
I love
I'm
this.
lost.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might steal that. I think that's smart.
I think it's fair. I think it's reasonable. It's like straight line. And it's like, look, if we don't deliver value, you're going to fire us. So like we know what the scoreboard is, which is we've got to drive up your revenue. Full stop. Like we can talk about click rates and bots and deliverability and anything you want to talk about in retention, but either number goes up or it doesn't. And so, we are, the products we are building are focused on driving impact, and then the pricing model we're figuring out, I guess. Look, I know we're at time. I do have one question. Maybe if you can be like help brand owners who are listening to this specifically given your role in the collective. I'm running a $50 million brand today. My boss says, go figure out what to do with AI. This is like literally the conversation that's happening. How should brand owners be thinking about what is an AI tool that is useful? What is an AI tool that is not? Where should I be using AI? I know it's a very big question, but like even one or two like thoughts about how you would approach it, or you would advise a friend to be like, focus more on the job to be done, or here's how to prioritize stuff. I think anything would be really, really well received by the audience.
Definitely. Here's one actionable thing that, a person at a $50 million brand could do to really accelerate their work. I would highly recommend Claude Cowork. It's Anthropic's kind of like assistant product. And the great thing is it can connect into pretty much anything. So you could connect it to Klaviyo's MCP server. You could connect it to Notion. And the real kind of cool things you can start doing are like, you need a design brief for an upcoming campaign. Claude Cowork, you just tell it, analyze previous campaign performance, look at these brand guidelines we have in Notion, and then come up with a campaign brief for our St. Patrick's Day sale. And it'll just like, it might take 10 or 15 minutes, but it'll do all that stuff in the background and really let you, free up your mind to focus on other things.
Thank you. All right. Last question. Anything that you didn't share that you really wanted to share coming on? Any other words of advice or things you want to double click on? And then secondly, where can folks find you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what helps me iterate on Revamp is talking to brand owners and talking to agency owners and all the people in between. So if that's you, I'd love to just talk. I do just free AI consulting for pretty much anyone who reaches out to me on LinkedIn. So yeah, if I can be helpful, I would absolutely love to. I always like making new friends and being helpful where I can.
Stephen, thank you. I will take you up on the free AI consulting at 7:00 tonight, and then we'll continue the conversation after that. Really a pleasure, man. I deeply have enjoyed watching you guys build. I remember hearing about you maybe a year and a half ago from Josh at AMB, and like the products you built and like where the company has come. The pace of change is really cool. And yeah, anyway, thank you for taking the time with us today.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. See you tonight. Have a good one.
Hi, I'm Aaron Schwartz, co-founder and co-CEO of Orita AI. We build AI customer segmentation for some of Klaviyo's biggest brands like Oriana, Spanx, Caraway, Third Love, True Classic, Rem Beauty, and on and on. Brands come to us to help find untapped revenue, improve their click rate, drive away mean bots, and a bunch more. You can learn more or get a free customer engagement audit at Orita.ai.